He's back. Cornelius, can you hear us?
I think he's still connecting.
And we lost your probation officer.
Yep.
If it's not one thing, it's another today.
Let me shoot him another message.
Cornelius doesn't have audio.
Still?
No, he does. He's not showing audio at all.
He's connecting now, I think.
Yeah. Mr.
So-
in.
There's Daniel. Welcome back, Daniel. We missed you.
He's, yeah.
I'm gonna go get a copy of a document out of my printer. I'll be right back.
Okay, so now his audio should be on. Cornelius, can you hear us?
You're muted, Cornelius. We can't hear you.
What about now?
There you go. All right. Now we just need Daniel. Daniel, are you there?
Yeah, he's there. Judge just went to go and get something out of his printer. He should be right back. He just printed something. He was gonna go and get it, and then we can start.
Okay. All right. So I got I'm using, I don't know, I'm using my phone now. So they
That's
couldn't,
okay.
they won't let me hook to the county deal. So I'm using my phone and I don't know how, hopefully that works for me.
You're okay. We hear
All
you
right.
very well. You're all right.
Okay, how copy over?
We're good.
Okay, Cornelius, welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm sorry, I went around, they couldn't give me they couldn't hook me up to the county deal for some reason. So I'm using my cell phone. Hopefully that'll work.
You're the man. All right, is Mr. Ovalle got commo with us and we can hear him when he's ready? He's got his microphone turned off currently.
I'm not sure he's signed in and Daniel, are you there? Let me shoot him a message.
Daniel, can you hear us? Your microphone's turned off, sir. Daniel, your mic, there you go.
Hello?
Now we got you. All right, everybody's
Okay.
good.
All right.
Let's start over. This is cause number 666-442, State of Texas versus Kobe Mancias. This is an obstruct passageway, roadway, waterway, first amended motion to enter adjudication of guilt and revoke community supervision. Representing Mr. Mancias is Mr. Cornelius Cox. Representing the state once again are Mr. Eddie Villarreal, Mr. Arthur Reed. Representing the Bexar County CSCD is Ms. Susan Gross and Mr. Arthur Valle. Mr. Valle, please raise your right hand, sir, and I'll swear you in. You swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Gross, I remind you, you're still under oath. This is a contested, first amended motion to enter adjudication of guilt and revoke community supervision. So, court accepts the plea of not true on all these allegations. I assume, Cornelius, that's what you want to do?
That's correct, Judge, and we invoke the rule.
And the roof, all right. I'm gonna need both probation officers here at all times. That's the only other people that are here. But what I'm gonna do is have Ms. Gross give an overview of Mr. Mancias' probation and then have Mr. Ovalle fill in the blanks and do anything specifically that he would know that Ms. Gross does not know. So at this point in time, Ms. Gross and Mr. Ovalle, would you please advise the court the status of Mr. Mancias' probation? And Ms. Gross, I'd like you to give an overview, and then Mr. Ovalle, I'd like you to be specific because you're the guy who's actually Mr. Mancias' probation officer. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Gross.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Mancias has been reporting as directed. This is his first violation report, first MTR. He has paid $672 towards his fees, has a balance of $917, and he is current at this time. We have a record of 8 of his 48 hours community service having been completed. He has had 3 negative drug tests, and he has failed to submit to drug testing on 1 occasion. We show that he has completed the DWI education class. However, we have no proof of enrollment or completion of the victim impact panel or the CAT-SNP programs. He has no criminal history, and he's currently on the Smart Start mobile device testing at 4 times per day. To date, he has had a total of 16 skip tests, 11 high BRACs, and 4 warning BRACs. Those high BRACs occurred on January 8th at 0.093 with no retest, January 9th at 0.075 with no retest, January 12th at 0.152 with a retest shortly thereafter that dropped to 0.01. So that one's probably not consistent with alcohol use. January 17th, 0.022 with a retest of 0.019. And then he didn't retest again to blow to clear. January 22nd at 0.031, he did not blow to clear until 3.5 hours later. January 23rd, 0.061 with no retest. January 24th, 0.030, which a short time later dropped to 0.01. So probably not consistent with alcohol use on that one. January 30th, 0.038, he did not blow to clear until 2 hours, 45 minutes later. February 11th, 0.041, did not blow to clear until 2 hours and 50 minutes later. March 13th, 0.064, no retest. March 14th, 0.024, no retest. And his officer is recommending that his probation period be extended for a period of 6 months and that he go through a TAP evaluation and go to the SATF residential drug and alcohol facility, as it is quite evident that the defendant does have an alcohol problem.
Before we go any further, Susan, please clarify for the parties in the court what the current status of SATF, Substance Abuse Treatment Facility inpatient program entry ability is. In the past, we've had huge problems with regard to defendants having to sit in jail for 60 or 90 days before they ever get into a SATF program. Are we still saddled with that problem, or did y'all fix it?
No, we are still undergoing that same situation where it's taking 60, 90 days just to go through the evaluation. And then it could take up to another month after that to get the results back and get an open treatment bed.
Okay. Before we go, let Mr. Ovalle answer questions and give his side of the testimony. I neglected in all our rush to try to get everybody on board to do 2 housekeeping matters. First off, I'm looking at a document entitled Defendant's Consent to Motion to Revoke Hearing by Video Conference in Clause 666-442. State of Texas versus Kobe Mancias. Said document allegedly signed by both Mr. Mancias and his attorney, Mr. Cox. In fact, Mr. Mancias, is this your signature on this document, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Mr. Cox, as attorney for Mr. Mancias, is this your signature on this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Pat, for purposes of administrative correction, on my copy, it's not dated under Mr. Cox's signature. So make sure that's dated today's date. It may be dated correctly on the original. I don't know. The next document I have is in clause 666-442, State of Texas versus Kobe Mancias, is entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, which is marked, quote, is an adjudication of guilt following a deferred adjudication, and the defendant has a limited right of appeal, unquote. Mr. Mancias, is this your signature on this document also, sir?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And Mr. Cox, as attorney for Mr. Mancias, is this also your signature on this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'm going to allow Mr. Mancias, original probation officer, current probation officer, who is Mr. Ovalle, to state his name for the record.
I state my name, I'm Community Supervision Officer Daniel Ovalle. I've
Alright.
been a probation officer since August of 2016 for Bexar County, Texas, adult probation.
All right, and is Mr. Mancias under cause 666-442 one of your current probationers?
Yes, I'm supervising Mr. Kobe Mancias on probation. I assumed supervision of his case in December of 2021.
Okay, and at this point in time, I'm going to let you give a general overview of your perception of the status of Mr. Mancias' probation, and then I'm going to allow both sides to ask you specific questions if they wish. Go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Ovalle.
My main concern is the defendant's denial of alcohol use and the numerous high bracks he had on the Smart Start mobile device. And my main concern is for his health, is denying his alcohol use, and in the future, the danger that can pose to society in general if he doesn't get help with his alcohol use.
Is Mr. Mancias telling you that he's denying all these positive tests for alcohol? I'm confused as to what you're
Yes,
telling me.
when I talked to him during Zoom visits, I told him about the high bracks, and he denied the use of alcohol. And I said, so what the Smart Start device is not lying to me, you've been using alcohol while on probation. And after the first MTR was filed, he continued to use alcohol, and I filed the first amended MTR. So he continued his use of alcohol even after the first warrant was activated. He continued to use alcohol.
And can you confirm that Ms. Gross's previous overview of Mr. Mancias' probation period is accurate?
It's accurate to the point.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for questions. State, do you have any questions for Mr. Ovalle as the probation officer for Mr. Mancias?
Yes, Judge. Hello, Mr. Ovalle. I have a few questions for you about Mr. Mancias' probation. When you assumed responsibility of this case, did you go through an orientation with him?
No, I went over specific things on the Smart Start mobile device that he needs to comply with the test windows. He cannot use any type of alcohol while on probation.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
And that he needs to be in compliance. And since I assumed supervision of his case in late December of 2021, he has not complied with the Smart Start mobile device, and that he has consumed alcohol and blown into the device and tested positive for alcohol.
So when you went over these conditions that you mentioned, did you go over, the condition number 2 with him?
His previous officer, when he was put on probation, read the original conditions
Okay.
of probation, and when he signed the original conditions in court or on Zoom court.
Objection, non-responsive, Judge. The question was, did he go over it with him?
Okay, is
I
he
went
not?
over
Hey,
conditions.
everybody stop talking. Hang on just a second. Everybody stop talking.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cornelius. Clarify your
No,
motion.
it was a just objection because the question was asked, did he go over the conditions? And the witness started talking about what some other officer did. So,
Okay.
non-responsive.
Okay.
Sustain the objection, and basically, Mr. Ovalle, what the objection is about is the fact you were not there apparently when Mr. Mancias was allegedly read his original instructions on probation. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's correct. I wasn't
All
there.
right. Go ahead.
To your knowledge, Mr. Ovalle, someone did go over the conditions with Mr. Mancias.
The original officer did.
And would that include condition number 2?
Yes,
Would that include condition number 13?
that is the Smart Start mobile device.
Yes, it's the community service number 13.
Yeah, they go on all my cases, not this specific. When I get a case with a new probation, I go over all conditions of probations and I read all their conditions.
So you yourself, did you go over these conditions with him?
No, I wasn't his first assigned probation officer.
Okay, but someone did go over the conditions with him.
Yes,
And so he's aware of condition number 2.
he's aware he cannot, he's aware of condition number 2, he cannot use any type of alcohol or illegal controlled substances while on probation for this case.
And so if he went over the conditions, if they went over the conditions with him, then he's also aware of condition number 14.
I wasn't there when the original probation officer read the conditions, so I always read the conditions of probations to my probationers the first time.
Okay.
When I see them for the first time, if they're assigned to me the first time.
Okay, so there are violations alleged of condition number 2 in this NTR.
For use of alcohol, yes.
And there are violations of condition number 14 as well.
Yeah, the blowing high bracs on the Smart Start mobile device, yes.
And it was your testimony earlier that Mr. Mancias informed you that he denied the allegations, that he denied he was drinking.
Yes, he denied it to me.
Is that consistent with what you saw in the violation report?
Yes, he's in denial.
But is his denial consistent with what you are seeing in the violation report? Does that match denying
Yes.
drinking when there are high bracs like that?
Yes.
It's consistent?
Yeah, he denied the use of alcohol on the Smart Start mobile device, and I said, and I reached out to him if he needed any kind of help.
Okay.
With his issues with alcohol.
But what you're seeing in the violation report, does that look like someone who is not drinking alcohol?
No, that's a person that's consuming alcohol while
Okay.
on probation.
And are you aware of how many times that occurred?
So I've counted, even on the same thing, I've counted over, I have the notes, over 18 high bracs.
Over 18 high bracs. Do you know what, would you happen to know what number those high bracs are?
They go as high as 0.061, and then he blows again into the device and it goes down to 0.031. He's still blowing high bracs and he's trying to pass the test, but he still has high alcohol content in his breath.
Okay. And we've talked about the high bracs and the alcohol consumption. Are you aware of any skip tests as on the Smart Start mobile device?
He had skip tests on the device from let's see, from test window reports from January 24th, 2022 to February 11th, 2022. He had 5 skip tests on the Smart Start mobile device.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Judge. We'll pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Cox, do you have any questions for this witness, sir?
Just a few, Judge. Sir, there have been some, there's been times when my client was supposed to blow, he blow, and those tests was negative, correct?
He had clean tests when he blew into it, but he had the violations on the,
Okay. Yeah, but have you shown, do you see any negative tests where he's blown and they've been negative ones?
so when you blow into the device, if you blow clean, it's
Clean.
a test pass on the Smart Start
Okay.
mobile device.
So he's had pass.
Yeah, he's passed test on it.
Recently, has it been more pass tests?
So I don't have the current reports on me, but I'm going by what I have right here on the MTRs. So
Okay, another question. He blows how many times? It blows weekly, daily, how often?
he has four test windows every day, 7 days a week.
Okay. So if in that information comes to you, if he blows, he has problems or issues, or even if not, that information goes to you, correct?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you restate the question, sir?
The information when he blows, the results of those blows, do they come to you on a daily basis or weekly basis? How often do they?
Yes, the Smart Start agency will let me know next day if he missed any test windows or if he submitted a high BRAC with alcohol, and they'll notify me and send me a message to my email.
Okay. Have you had any notifications in the last week?
I haven't updated that on my email. I haven't checked.
What about the last 2 weeks?
None that I've come across.
What about the last month? Within the last month?
March. I need to refresh myself on the reports.
And you took over his case when?
December of 2021, late December.
Okay, late December. Okay, so in terms of March, we're in March, you don't show anything. What about February? The month of February.
February. Yeah, he had a high BRAC on February 11th.
Okay. Since
February
February 11th, that he has any high BRACs that you can determine.
I need to go back and check the reports on that.
Okay. All right. I'll pass it with you.
Anything further, State?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
Hey, Mr. Ovalle, I got a question. With regard to the standard operating procedure of the Bear County CSCD, with regard to misdemeanor probationers, my understanding is that when some misdemeanor probationer goes on probation, he has a meeting with his probation officer, and nowadays it may be by Zoom for all I know. But there's actually a document that we call the conditions that a probationer has to sign to acknowledge that he has been informed of what he is required to do or not do on probation. Is there a copy of conditions in your official file on Mr. Mancias?
Yes, since COVID-19, sometimes I don't get the hard case files, but I do have access to the computer file, and I'll print it out. And when I see the probationer for the first time, if they're assigned to me as their first probation officer, I go over all the conditions of probation and I read it to them. And at the end of the reading the conditions of probation, I state to them, do you understand the conditions of probation? And I either ask them yes or no. And if they say yes, that affirms that they understand their conditions of probation to me.
Did Mr. Mancias indicate to you that he understood his conditions of probation?
Specifically, conditions 2 and compliance with the Smart Start mobile device, and I brought that out to him. I said you cannot use alcohol, and that's conditions number 2. He does understand what condition 2 is regarding the use of alcohol while on probation for this offense.
Any questions based on mine, state?
Not at this time, Judge.
Defense, Mr. Cox?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, does the state have anything else they want to offer at this time?
No, Judge, that concludes the state's.
Mr. Cox, do you wish to put on any testimony or evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Can we release Mr. Ovalle, or would you like him to stick around? State?
He can be released, Your Honor.
No
Mr.
objection.
Cox?
No objection.
Objection. Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Ovalle. You're released. If you just kind of hang around your cell phone in case something else comes up, then we'll give you a call, but I think we're good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's say final argument, state.
Your Honor, as we heard from the probation officer, Mr. Mancia's probation officer, the probation officer did state that Mr. Mancias was made aware of the conditions of his probation. That's including number 2, including number 14. It's the use of alcohol. He was made aware of those, and he affirmed to the probation officer that he understood. This is all according to the probation officer we just heard from. There is some indication that maybe not. There may not be any recent violations as of February, but there's no way to know whether or not that is without further testimony, further evidence. And so what we really have here is alcohol use, whether it happened last month or in February. We know that alcohol use has occurred. And so we would ask that the court revoke the defendant's probation at this point.
Mr. Cox?
Okay. Your Honor, and may it please court, Judge, we have a young man that he's employed. He's reporting, I think, when the first officer testified that he reports. And I realized based on testimony, Judge, there's some issue with alcohol use. It appears to be in terms of recently, he's only been on probation since December. And it appears that there were, the probation officer testified that I think February 11th, he got some indication that there was a high brack. But after that, he either hasn't gotten them or the probation officer hadn't been notified of. That suggests that at least the young man is trying to comport. He wants to, he's young, has no past, and he wants to comport. One of the problems in terms of, and I think the court had to deal with, we have a situation that say they wanted to put him in residential, which I think that he could probably, if we put him on intensive outpatient, it would do the same. It's pretty much a cruelty to have folks sit in jail for 60 days, 90 days, before they can even go to rehab. If that rehab is what they needed, they lose.
Cornelius, you're muted. We cannot hear you. Cornelius, we cannot hear you. You are muted. Cornelius. Mr. Cox, we cannot hear you.
There he is.
The amount that he blows, put him on zero tolerance, which will allow him to maintain his job. And the judge can let him know, hey, if there's any deviation, then he runs a risk of incarceration or inpatient. So that would be my position, Judge, just to modify his probation and to allow him to at least continue to work and put him on some type of zero tolerance.
And I'm sorry, where is Mr. Mancias working these days?
Mr. Mancia, again, I wrote it down, Judge. Mr. Mancias?
Yes.
Okay, where are you working at, you said?
I'm working for USAA as an auto adjuster for all cat claims. So I deal with all the total loss.
Anything further, Cornelius?
Nothing further, Judge.
State, I have a question. Apparently, when Mr. Mancias went on probation, it was for a period of 16 months, which is a pretty long time. Was there something aggravated about the original case that would cause that? Or do you have any, you may or may not have been the actual prosecutor that was involved in this case, but is there a reason that we put him on for 16 months instead of like a normal year, I would guess?
I can tell you that right now, Your Honor.
Is there an accident in this incident or something? I mean, you obviously allowed it. I assume it was a DWI originally, and you allowed it to become an obstruction. Does that sound right?
That's right, Your Honor. We did reduce it to obstruction from a DWI. There doesn't, from what I'm seeing, there's nothing too aggravating about the case. But I believe it was, since it was lowered to obstruction, they may have lengthened the term and placed them on deferred because of the reduction to obstruction.
Okay, I got it. Okay, anything further from the state or the defense on Mr. Mancias?
Nothing from the state, Judge.
No, yeah.
Mr. Mancias, in cause number 666-442, the court accepts your plea of not true to all. I find that the alcohol consumption allegations are true. I grant the state's motion to revoke your deferred adjudication probation. I find you guilty of the offense of obstruction of a passageway, roadway, or waterway. Now, textbook solution for somebody who is using alcohol to the extent that apparently Mr. Mancias is. In my mere 43 years of doing this, I've never seen anybody come up positive plus or minus 11 times on a Smart Start mobile on a daily basis. That indicates a severe alcohol problem. And if I had the ability to address it correctly, we would have an inpatient rehabilitation program. Because Mr. Mancias is not a bad guy. He's just an alcoholic kind of guy. So that being said, Cornelius, my problem is I can't in good conscience allow him to go to SATF without your permission and his permission, knowing he's going to have to probably sit in jail 60 to 90 days before he gets into substance abuse treatment facility. Do you agree that that is not a reasonable thing to ask of a defendant?
I agree, Judge.
So that limits me down to a jail sentence in some capacity. Now, let's talk about the good things about Mr. Mancias. He has, as Mr. Cox points out, he's not been on probation that long, but as long as he's been on, he's been consuming alcohol. He's committed no new offenses. There have been no other problems that I'm aware of. We've skipped a couple of breath tests and maybe missed a UA or something, but generally our primary problem is continual consumption of alcohol. Ms. Gross, would you agree?
Yes, Your Honor. The alcohol consumption is our major concern, not only for the defendant, but for the community as well.
And Mr. Cox, my other options, if I were to try to keep him on probation, I can put him on a scram bracelet, but all that does is reinforce what we already know. He's going to continue drinking. I can't stop him from drinking. Do you have any input for me on that, Mr. Cox?
You're muted
Mr.
again,
Cox,
Mr.
you're
Cox.
muted. Mr. Cox, we cannot hear you. You are muted. Mr. Cox, we cannot hear you. Mr. Cox,
But you said that he understand that he could lose everything and sit in jail for a while. So my thing that you can always put him on a zero tolerance, and then at that point, if he continues, and like I say, he's doing everything he's supposed to do. Other than that, if he continues, then he knows that the writing is on the wall.
My record reflects the only thing he's completed is DWI education. Has he done anything on victim impact panel or the outpatient drug course, Community Alliance for Traffic Safety, new intervention program? We don't know. Does he, do you all know?
Yes, I had completed the victim impact panel, but I have not yet registered into the CAT SNP because I'm still trying to figure out that schedule. So I'm thinking I've heard about like the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday class, so that I can go ahead and do them.
Mr. And with Mr. Cox's permission, I've got a question for Mr. Mancias, but it goes straight to the core of this drinking problem. Do I have your permission to chat with Mr. Mancias about that, Mr. Cox?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mancias, I've got overwhelming scientific evidence that says that you can't stop drinking. Can you tell me anything that's different from that? It just appears to me that you know you're going to get in trouble if you drink, but you're still drinking because you can't stop. That's my perception. Is that right or wrong?
I could stop drinking. I've been doing it since the last violation that I received. I could do it. I know I could do it. I've been doing it. I'm surprised of hearing that 16 high bracks or 11 missed blows. On my device, everything's been passing.
Judge, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
he had a high BRAC with no retest as recently as 2 days ago of 0.024, and the day before that of 0.64. So he's consumed alcohol twice out of the last 4 days.
Mr. Ovalle, I'm sorry, Mr. Mancias, you don't think you have an alcohol problem?
I don't, because my device is blowing, it's passing, and I know I don't.
But you're still drinking, right?
No, I stopped. Since
You're
the
not
last
still
one.
drinking?
No,
Why
sir, I stopped.
am I getting 14?
That
1,
is
2,
my-
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's like 11 days of positives on your Smart Start mobile if you're not drinking. What's causing that?
That is my questioning, my argument, my stress that I've been dealing with.
Well, I mean, there's got to be some valid reason why they're coming up positive, and they're coming up different test amounts each time. 061, 031, 028, 022, 026. My favorite, I think, is the 0.152, which is twice legally intoxicated. So my concern is for your safety and the safety of the other citizens in Bexar County that you're still drinking and driving, apparently.
No, I stopped consuming alcohol since my first violation.
All right. State anything further?
Say, Your Honor, we just asked for revocation at this
All
point.
right. And Mr. Cox, anything further?
No, Judge.
To
Mr. Mancias, in cause 666-442, court accepts your plea of not true. I find the allegations of consuming alcohol true. I grant the state's motion to revoke your deferred adjudication probation. I adjudicate you guilty of the offense of obstruction of a passageway, roadway, or waterway. I'm going to sentence you to 90 days in the Bexar County Jail instead of the 180 days I could have given you. I'm going to have you report to the Bexar County Jail at 9:00 a.m. this Friday, which is the 18th of March, 2022. The last time I heard, Mr. Cox, the sheriff was given 3 for 1, but I don't work for the sheriff's department. I don't know how that works. So the possibility exists he may only be in jail 30 days. The possibility exists he may be in jail 90 days. You know how that works better than I do.
Because would you allow for work release since he
There's no such thing as work release under COVID that I'm aware of. Work release right now is he stays at home and he goes to work. If you find out something different where he spends the night in jail and works during the day, I would love to hear about that. But my understanding is that's not available right now. Susan, go ahead.
Yes, did the court impose a fine in this case?
Yeah, I'm not finished. I'm
Okay, I
still
apologize.
rolling on this still. And it's going to be a $2,000 fine plus court costs, credit for time served, time and money to run concurrent. And that's basically it. Recalling all pretrial bond conditions and any warrants that might be out there. I'm just out of options, Mr. Cox. Once again, I reinforce, I kind of feel sorry for Mr. Mancias. I can't get him to abide by the terms of probation. He's not a bad guy at all, but he does have a severe alcohol problem. He won't even agree exists. So I'm out of options.
All right. Do they allow, Judge, for a
have to
ELM
like low
instead
right
of
now.
jail to be to be on a monitor? House
Well,
arrest?
my understanding is that I have the authority to order him to stay at home on a monitor, but that's, that's hardly any punishment. If I can't get Mr. Mancias to voluntarily rehabilitate himself, then all I can do is punish him. It's the only other tool in my toolbox. And I'm punishing him in the nicest possible way. I could give him 180 days. And you of all people are well aware how quickly I will do that in the correct case. But
That's
in
correct,
Mr. Mancias' case, you have convinced me that there is mitigation. But there is no mitigation to the fact that he has a severe alcohol problem. Until the day he dies, when you're not on probation, drink all you want, just don't drive, because you're going to kill yourself or somebody else. You've gotten to the point where you're a professional drinker, and alcohol does not have the same effect on you that it does on normal people. So you can tolerate more alcohol and stay functional at higher levels, but that's not what we're looking for when you're on probation. So it's a miracle we haven't had any accidents or other problems based on alcohol and driving. I'll stop preaching. All right. Good luck, Mr. Mancias. I wish you well. Make sure you show up at the jail at 9:00 a.m. this coming Friday morning. And Mr. Cox, I'm asking you to check with the sheriff's department and see if you can find out what the current quotient is on jail sentences, so you can educatedly advise Mr. Mancias so he knows what's coming up.
All right, appreciate it, Judge. Thank
All
you
right.
very
Good
much.
luck, Mr. Mancias. Thank you, Mr. Cox.
you.
Y'all are dismissed.
Okay.
Can I take a minute to blow real quick?
Actually, you can go, Mr. Mancias. You're done. You just need to turn yourself into the jail. Okay, he's gone. Goodbye, Mr. Cox. You have a good day, sir.
If I can figure out how to get out of here. Let me see. Oh, these.